Life means to live in full expectation of change. Because that movie, from the first opening frame to the end, was all about change. Change. Change of people's minds, change of people's hearts, and change of people's actions and behaviors.
Because the things that I took her to be saying were about, she started out by saying she felt like she needed to join a group because there was very little she could do meaningfully as an individual. She talked about the power of the state, the power of institutions, and so I felt like it was a lot less about what we think, feel, and say, and more about what the state and the institutions are set up to do and to produce, and how we need to understand that and then organize as a collective against that.
She said herself, knowledge can help change the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in the beginning, and I think that's her story, that's her legacy, that's her role. And then when her sister says, basically her as a revolutionary is basically the manifestation of her education and intelligence. Oh my God. I didn't realize how the world and how internationally connected the movement was behind her case. That's so impressive. They didn't have Twitter. They didn't have Facebook.
No, you're right.
That little kids in Germany were writing her letters. And that what our biggest problem is not necessarily that television, it's not understanding that we're not from Houston, Texas, we're from the world. And why don't we have 12 showings of this week, 2 a day? Why don't we?
We all who lived through that, this was great. But the problem with this was, when you analyze this, what? Nothing in the head, nothing in the hand, and nothing in the pocketbook. So as great as it was for unity to pull people together as a symbol and a sign, if it didn't have this component, if it didn't have economic empowerment as a component, if it didn't have education, economic empowerment, it was just a wonderful gesture, made us all feel great, but it didn't have anything.
That Angela had the ability to take what she learned and apply it to her situation so that she was successful in the end. When are we as a group of people are going to say enough? I don't want to teach my child the test. I don't want him to bring home a book where I can teach him, if we do this step, do this step, do this step, we'll get this answer. When are we going to get together and say, no, the way that we educated us in the past is what we need to go back to?
Several things. First of all, when I looked at Angela Davis, I saw a sister, I saw an aunt, I saw a mother, I saw a girlfriend, but more importantly, I saw someone that was prepared to operate outside of a system that existed. Now, we're steady standing up here asking ourselves the question about education. As a single parent, I take pride in the fact that I do not send my son to school to learn. I send my son to school so that he can do what the system requires him to do, but I also teach my son that you yourself have to go out there and create a job for yourself. Don't wait for anybody to do anything for you. And I think this is the problem that we have as a community. We're waiting for people to come and educate the children. What do you think they're going to teach you? They're going to teach you to be a slave.
I'm inspired, and under the auspices of change and sacred spaces, I want to speak to something different. I get a little discouraged when I come to meetings and things, and because I think that we're speaking to the choir, we're preaching to the choir. The people that we are talking about that are not engaged are not here. I personally don't need to go and be drugged through with why we're not doing this and that, because I'm a part of why we're not doing it. I mean, I'm in here with you all, so I know why we're not doing this. It's Shay Shay and Bebe and Tyrone and all those other people, right? But like you say, crazy shit happens. It's also one of the things that Angela brought out. Angela was educated, and she was very fortunate to have the education, to have parents who were engaged and educated her. But also the guy that she fell in love with, they didn't talk about his history or where he came from. One of the things that incarceration gave him was time to think. Crazy shit happens. All of us don't go through the same doorway, right? But the people that initiate change, sometimes they just fall into it. So we never know who and what we might do. A whole lot of our leaders in the past just woke up and they were in some shit that they couldn't get out of, and had to stand up, show up, and be there. So I don't know, I kind of feel like, you know, we start talking about what's not going on and what's not happening. We are on the forefront of change right here today, and we are the people that's going to initiate it. So I'm always looking for, how can I help get there without being overburdened with what's going on? We're all...
This say you, most of you, give me hope, because the majority of the people who was out there hollering about free Angela, they're not here tonight. You heard about it. Well, I can say that I was part of it. And the same day that, but one thing that that I think you should get from this film is, what is your responsibility now? Where do we go from here? And one thing that I admire about the picture, about the documentary, is you see Angela, not talking about Angela. She was saying, free all political prisoners.
Yep.
And when you talk about political prisoners, you are talking about black men mostly. A system, we're talking about a system that is geared to putting black men into penitentiary. The question then, what can you do as the younger generation to stop this?
The last thing I want to say, you know, in terms of what I find inspirational about Angela Davis is that she's someone who's not afraid to be radical. She's not someone who's afraid to talk about the structural causes, the roots of the inequality that we all live with. And she's also somebody whose radical thought has remained dynamic and has evolved over the years. She's talking a lot. She's connected to memory and to ancestors, and she's always reaching back into the past, but she's also always paying attention to what's going on right now and how her thinking needs to change to fit the political moment that she finds herself in. And so, you know, I think the work that she's done, they didn't talk about it in the film, but the stuff she's doing around prison abolition, she's moving beyond freeing political prisoners. She's saying prisons should not exist, and I agree with her. She's a feminist. A lot of black people don't talk about that, but she is, and she has a vision for dismantling patriarchy and talking about misogyny and homophobia in our communities, and those are things we have to deal with. That's forward radical thinking. She's opposed to the expansion of U.S. empire. She has a critique about Israel and Palestine, and if you're not thinking about Palestine as a black person, you should be. And so I just think that the kind of vision that she has, her ability to just always be forward thinking and to be expansive in her vision of what justice looks like, not just for her as a black woman, but for everybody, is what inspires me as an educator and makes me feel like that has to be the mandate that I continue, that I pick up in my work. So thank you all for being here.
But in the spirit of how we started this, and I have to end this way, in the spirit of the sacred dialogue and conversation that we must continue, I can't think of anything more that popped in my mind to end this with, and that's the last sentence from the immortal poem by Dr. Benjamin E. Mays about reaching our stars and reaching our goals. Because we are on the cusp of a new movement, and maybe in many ways a new revolution. The last sentence of the poem that goes like this: for truly in the end, my brothers and sisters, for not failure, but low aim is sin. So let's aim high, aim high, aim high. Thank you all for being here tonight.